Welcome to Chiropad TV. This is Dr. Paul Bindell, President of Life Systems Software. It is with great pleasure that we provide you with this segment of our video training series for the ChiroSuite program. In this presentation, we are going to focus on the assessment and diagnosis screens of Chiropad. After opening the patient's file, click on the assessment icon, and that brings you to the assessment screen. If this is a new assessment of the patient, one of the first things you want to do is note their condition status. Just click on the drop-down arrow and make the selection according to what needs to be there. If this is not the patient's first visit, you may also want to make a note about their progress. On the first visit, the default will always be no comment. However, after the first visit, you would be able to choose anything from no comment to any of the other selections that are within the system. You also have the means of customizing the selection to your own liking. If the patient's progress is fast, good, there's no need to put in anything extra. However, if it is slow, guarded, or poor, then once you make that selection, you should also enter why it is poor or guarded. And that means coming to the column on the right and just clicking on the items that apply for this particular patient. If the item that you need is not on this list, come to the scroll bar, scroll down, go to the last item where there is an asterisk next to a checkbox, click on that, and then click in the space to the right side. You are then able to type in whatever you would like to see. Keep in mind that what you will type into this space is only going to be a fragment of a sentence. In other words, just a phrase or just a couple of words. Because what will end up happening is that the system will generate sentences, and this information will be fit into the template that already exists. Another thing to keep in mind is that once you have added something to this list, although it will only appear in this patient's notes if the check is in the box, it will remain on the list and be available for all other patients if you should need it. The same thing applies in the pre-existing contribution area. If the patient has a pre-existing contribution to their problems, you should make a note of that by putting a check in whatever box applies. If you need to add something in, click on the box that is next to the asterisk, and then just click to the right of that and type in whatever you need to. Also, there are those occasions when the assessment that you want to enter for the patient is not going to be met by what appears automated within the system. You would then come into the typewritten assessment, click into this space, and type the paragraph that you need. Once you have completed all of the assessment information, simply click on the Save icon. If for this patient you had entered an assessment in the past, you would be able to click on the date of that assessment by coming into this drop-down box at the top, and then it will show you whatever that assessment had been. In order to enter the diagnosis set, if you have made entries on the assessment screen, you must first save those entries before you can click on the Diagnosis tab. If you have made no entries on the assessment screen, just simply click on the Diagnosis sets, and that will open up the Diagnosis screen. In order to create a new diagnosis, click on the New icon. That is the one that has the green starburst. That puts in today's date, and it clears the screen so that you can enter something new. If this particular diagnosis needed to begin on a different date other than today, then click on the little pencil that is to the right side. That allows you to now edit this particular date field. To make life easy, if you just double-click on that date field, it brings up a calendar, and then when you click on the date that the diagnosis should start on, it is filled in automatically. On the other side of the coin, once the cursor is in place, you also have the option of hitting the delete key and then entering what that diagnosis date actually is. The diagnosis visitometer is either the date or the number of visits that are allowed for this particular diagnosis. If you fill information in over here, then this is going into the future, and it will make sure that you get a pop-up message that tells you when the diagnosis has expired, and then you will be able to change the diagnosis accordingly. If there is more than one diagnosis in the system for the patient and you need to view the patient's diagnosis history, by clicking on the History button, you will get a list that will include all the diagnoses that have previously been entered in the system. In order to enter a new diagnosis, you have 3 different methods open to you. The first is click onto each line of the in-office ID code, get the drop-down arrow, and choose the particular item that you need. The second would be to go into the ICD column and click on the drop-down arrow and scroll through the list of all the ICD codes until you find what you need. However, both of those methods can be very time-consuming. The more rapid method is to create a diagnosis pattern in the customization area, and then when a patient comes in, all you need to do is select which pattern applies and then choose the items that you need in the order in which you want them to appear on the lines above. You can also delete a diagnosis code line by line by simply clicking onto that line and then click on the button that says Delete a Single ICD Code. When you click the Apply button down below, that moves all the diagnoses from the diagnosis pattern up to the top, and you will see that they appear in the line sequence which you selected. This line sequence is significant because items 1 through 4 will appear in box 21 of the HCFA form in the diagnosis boxes that are contained there, and any diagnosis 5 or greater can appear in box 19 if you select that option. Once you have completed the diagnosis entries, then click on the Save icon, and you have completed entering the information for the assessment and diagnosis screens. Now that the information is completed, you can move on to another area. Thank you for watching this training video. Should you have additional questions that were not answered here, please contact support@chiropad.com or call us at 973-625-3716. We will do everything we can to make sure that you get the maximum benefit from using the ChiroSuite programs.